the years pass, the appeal for people to start running games has increased, and there are plenty of videos out there discussing how to be a good dungeon master. This video is not one of them. Rather, this video is about common misconceptions I hear online and what I personally thought myself. I have to be honest, I have not been playing this hobby long enough to feel qualified or experienced enough to give advice on this topic. I've been playing and DMing for about 4 years, and probably like you, yes you, I have watched almost every video on YouTube about Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to give you all a practical perspective on how to start and what I have learned along the way. Number 1. The Dungeon Master is the enemy. This is not true. A lot of players have the mentality that the Dungeon Master's only goal is to kill the party, and it's really sad to hear. As someone who runs games for my friends, I want to see them succeed and love the world they're playing in. I don't want them to be running around thinking that Tiamat is around every corner. Have I ever killed a PC before? Yes, but never on purpose. During my games, I've always asked my players what their plans are during a dungeon crawl or upcoming boss fight, and I try to help them as much as I can to let their plans work. But sometimes the dice have other plans, and sometimes I have a twist already up my sleeve that they don't know about. So in summary, the DM is not the enemy. Rather, he's just there to assist and to basically monitor the game as it goes. Number 2. You need to have a fully built world before running games. This is not true at all. I once ran a one-shot for brand new players, and I didn't have too much time, but there was only 3 sort of landmarks that I really locked down on and just decided this is the 3 areas that we're going to be exploring. That's it. First one was a city. I can't even remember what the city's name was, and within the city was just a market. I had farmland outside, and in the farmland there's specifically an old mill. Nothing else planned. You don't need to figure out where the mountains are, where the big capital city was. All I said was, hey, there's this city, there's a festival going on, let's just make sure nothing sketchy is going on. And during the entire one-shot, I just threw a couple bandits, goblins, and kobolds their way. The kobolds were like in service for the goblins, so it was mainly the goblins as the bad guys. The bandits basically were all frogs, and so I got to do Kermit the Frog impressions the entire first fight that they did. It was a lot of fun for them, and I find world building does not have to be this insane process that takes like months to do. It can be, boom, there's a city, there's farmland, there's a mill, boom, let's do that. That's it. That's all you need. Number 3, natural 20s are always a success. I'm going to read you what's specifically in the handbook for D20s. You roll a D20 whenever your character tries to do something that the DM decides has a chance of both success and failure. So it specifically says that if there's a chance for the players to succeed or fail is when you ask for a roll. If the bard rolls up to the throne room and asks for the king's crown, that will never happen, so don't ask for a roll. Now, if it is possible, to a certain extent, I would still allow the nat 20 go through. And of course, the same can go with natural ones. Natural ones are more kind of like, ooh, natural ones. Let's say, for example, your barbarian with a strength of 20 wants to lift a bed-sized rock. If they hit a nat 1, like maybe you could do something goofy, but I would still let them lift the rock because they would still have an insane athletic score to actually lift that rock. So in this sense, it kind of goes both ways of not every nat 20 is a success and not every nat 1 is a fail. Number 4, you need to voice every NPC in your world. You do not have to do this. I feel like to a certain extent in the past several years, we've done a lot of live plays happening on YouTube and Twitch and things like that, where you have these dedicated D&D tubers playing their games and just live streaming it. And of course, they always do these voices and everything on there, which is great. And it started, I guess, with Critical Role. I don't know exactly the history behind it, but I feel like they're the main ones who got the success behind it. As voice actors themselves, they can do those voices and it sounds great. You do not need to add voices in your game if you're not comfortable with that. Of course, it can be fun and goofy, like I said before. I pull out my Kermit the Frog impression whenever there's a frog involved, but it does not have to be serious. It can just be fun, and to be honest with you, in my own games, I've tried to do a little bit of voice modifications to my own voice, but it's never good. But if I wasn't with my friends, I could definitely see how this could be awkward. So play it by ear, do whatever you're comfortable with, but you do not have to do voices. Number 5 is you need to know every rule before playing. This is not true. So you do not need to know every rule in the game for you to start playing. Basically, understanding the rules essentially just makes the game go a little bit smoother as you're playing. And I mean, heck, I feel like most people don't really remember how grappling works in the new edition here, but it's not crucial and it's not going to prevent you from playing the game. Like, you don't really need to know a whole lot to get into D&D. Number 6 is you need to add backstories to your campaign. And the idea behind this is that as DMs, we feel pressured to add the players' backstories to the campaign or to the story that we're trying to run. And I would say it depends. And where this comes from is, I would say, probably how invested the players are in their characters. Now, of course, if someone sends the classic 40-page document on their character's backstory and everything, I just say no. Mainly just because usually a lot of my games more recently have started at lower levels. Do not feel pressured to add something in there to get them going narrative-wise in the story. They just want to play D&D. Your backstory does not have to be a major part of the plot. Maybe it could be, but no. For me personally, whenever I play D&D as a character, I don't care about my backstory personally. Yes, I'll have something in my mind, but I never really care about it being part of the narrative. So it's never super serious, and I would just, honestly, I feel like you should just ask your players. Don't feel pressured to do it. Number 7 is you need to plan everything out. And this goes into this idea called railroading. Essentially, the players feel like they don't get to choose where they're going. The DM is just basically leading them through the story. And I would say yes and no. The key to DMing is never railroading in terms of, hey, you're going here. It's more of like, hey, there's adventure over here. It's almost like you're luring a cat with catnip, in the sense that, ooh, there's something over here, you should go take a look. You're not forcing them to go that way, but you're essentially just ding, 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 just like ring a little bell just to guide them on where you want them to go. There was definitely at one point I realized that I was railroading, and it felt awful, and I realized like the players literally said, oh, we should go here because that's what he planned out. And I felt it in my gut being like, ooh, I should not do that. And I've started to learn and adjust from there, slowly guide the story exactly where it needs to go. And all this comes down to trial and error. You either do it or you don't. In the sense that, like, if you do it, oh, call yourself out on it, try to do a bit better. But also, railroading isn't that big of a deal. If it's a one-shot, if it's anything, who cares? It's a one-shot. It's not that serious. Number 8 is you need to have a minimum of 4 players before running games. This is dumb. And my reasoning is that sometimes getting 4 people plus someone to run the game is hard for scheduling. And it's hard to get that many people in one place for several hours. And so it is totally okay if you run it for 3 people. If you run it for 2 people, heck, D&D can be run for 1 person if that's what you want to do. It could also be ran with 10 people, but that's kind of insane. If you do that, props to you, but that's not my personal vibe. You don't need to have a minimum of 4 people. You can do as many people as you like. You just might need to adjust your combats and things like that as you go. Speaking of combat, number 9 is D&D is only combat. Technically no, because there's 3 pillars to Dungeons & Dragons. combat, social encounters, and exploration. An area that is not really explored super often, which is not really people's fault. Dungeons & Dragons doesn't have great rules for exploration, but if you're only running combats for D&D, it can be a bit of a snooze fest. So you do want to like add social encounters in terms of maybe they gotta bribe the tavern keeper, maybe they gotta stop a war from happening from between two kingdoms. That could be an interesting plot point that can only really be done through social encounters. It can't be done through combat. Same with exploration. I am very fascinated and I want to run more exploration-esque encounters in my campaigns via earthquakes, avalanches, tornadoes, things like that, where there are these insane challenges that need to be overcome, and it can sometimes feel like a trap outside of a dungeon, if that makes sense. So yeah, D&D is not only combat, it is also social encounters and exploration. My last point here is you need to have a deep story to make a good campaign. That is not true. As you could probably hear my voice in my one-shots that I've run before, my stories are very simple. It's just, there's this goblin, you gotta go kill him because he's making a ruckus around the valley. And that's it. It does not have to be this deep narrative and like full like character growth and things like that. If you want to do that, go for it. I will support you on that. Dungeons & Dragons at the end of the day is a game. It's not a book. So don't feel like you need to do these deep storylines. It can be super simple, and you will also grow more comfortable in terms of running D&D games and stories, if that makes sense. So like, if you start out, maybe it's just a basic Goblin Lord, but then maybe you can work up to Tiamat. I don't know. Whatever you feel comfortable with is what you should do. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to this video. If you guys did enjoy, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. I'm a brand new D&D YouTuber to the space, and this honestly is just a passion project of mine. So if you guys want to stick around and see what I get up to, I would really appreciate the support. Thank you all so much for sticking around, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.